Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Steve. I wanted to talk today about the political efficacy of shame. That's right. So my last video we talked about fascism and tribalism and how you can't reason people out of a position when they're very invested into it in a tribal sense because they're going to defend their tribe. So it just doesn't work. That's why people will deny the evidence of their eyes and ears and just go with what their tribal authorities say. And it's very frustrating when you're trying to debate people on a logical level and it's just not going to work. So we talked about how your best bet's going to be to build a sense of rapport and kind of diminish the identity attached to what you're trying to discuss by building up the other parts of their identity so that they're kind of understanding that they're more than just conservative. So it's a very subtle approach. It's very, you have to do it out of love. It's not a calculated thing. You have to actually care about people and build rapport. And when they care about you and trust you and start to feel you as part of their in-group, they're going to actually be able to listen to you without getting the defensive walls up. So that was the last video. But a lot of people have the perception that the left can only operate with shame. That's the whole political correctness thing, and obviously there's a massive backfire effect against the shame movement of the left, the political correctness movement. Pretty much what brought us Donald Trump. You had a whole bunch of the Gamergate movement, a whole bunch of Anti-SJW channels rose up and got super popular, millions and millions of views. It spread from there to all over the right wing environment, and eventually led to the nomination of Donald Trump, the ultimate middle finger to liberals. It's the ultimate troll, you could say, and it's having very negative effects. So obviously shame doesn't always work. So let's talk about when it works and when it doesn't, and what assumptions you need to make and need to be true in order for it to work. So I thought of a good example. Take it out of a political context just so that it's less charged. Let's regress back to when you were 6 years old, okay? You're 6 years old, your mom walks into the kitchen, you're in the living room watching TV, and on the counter there's a package of cookies with 3 missing. And she comes into the living room, and you can just imagine however your mom would do it. Maybe she yells at you, "What the hell, you took my cookies?" Or, "How dare you steal cookies?" Or maybe she's, "Oh, I'm really disappointed in you. You can't take things without asking, blah, 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 blah." However she does it, she's a mom. Chances are she's, trying to shame you, trying to teach you that that's wrong, etc. But there's 2 assumptions that have to be true in order for that to work. One is that you actually perceive yourself as having done the thing. So let's say you didn't actually take the cookies, your sister did. Is your mom's shame attempt going to work on you? No, you're gonna be like, "It wasn't me, it's my sister. I guess. I didn't take them. All I know is I didn't take them." Now, what if you did actually take the cookies, but you legit forgot? Remember, you're 6 years old. So you've been watching cartoons for 3 hours, playing games, doing your thing as a kid, completely forgot 3 hours ago you might have taken a couple cookies, right? Same thing though. She comes out and how dare you? If you've legit forgot, you're gonna be like, "What? I didn't take any cookies." And unless you remember or get prompted in a way that triggers that memory, it's not gonna do much good for you. The other assumption you have to make is that the person understands why that's a bad thing and agrees with it. So let's say, let's change the scenario. Now you're 16 years old. Same thing. Mom comes in the living room. "Hey, you took 3 cookies." Well, 16-year-old's probably going to be like, "Mom, you owe me food. That's part of being an adult. Wanted a snack, took the cookies, get over it," right? A lot of 16-year-olds aren't going to feel bad about taking cookies. So the shame no longer works in this instance unless you explain why they should. Like, hey, we were going to have people over. This is the only snack in the house. They're coming here in 20 minutes. Like, you have to communicate when you're eating things in my pantry so that we can, whatever the case might be. You have to actually explain why it's wrong so that people get it and can adjust their behavior. Because if people don't agree with you that what you're doing is wrong, then the shame's just going to kind of backfire. It's shame that people feel isn't justified will always backfire because people get offended. A perfect example of this that's related to the current protests and whatnot. One of the people at work, one of the managers, made a post a few days after George Floyd's murder, I should say. And I've never seen him post anything political. But he posted, and it was a really strong post to the effect that, this is murder, our system's fucked up. I stand with the Black Lives Matter protesters. If you don't get the fuck off my page, I don't want you to be on my friends list. I don't even want to talk to you. It was like, damn, like strong statement, right on. And he's a white guy. I was actually kind of surprised. I've never talked to him about politics. Kind of assumed he was more on the right just because he looks like it, Anyway, but great post, great guy. Well, I overheard him a couple days after that. He's a manager at a car dealership of mine. And he was telling another manager, and I could hear through my window, about this young black woman that had come in to buy her car. And she made an offer on the car that was $4,000 under our actual cost. And when he said no, she accused him of being racist and that he just wouldn't take the offer because he was being racist. And that did not make him happy, as you can imagine. He tried to explain that, no, I wouldn't pay a white person $4,000 to take a car off my lot either. That's an offer I can't take from anybody. And it was a very frustrating experience for all involved. So that's an example when somebody doesn't perceive themselves as doing anything wrong and you try to shame them, it's not going to come across as efficacious. So that's in one-on-one conversation. What about if you're like in a comment section and you're responding to somebody? So let's, recently JK Rowling was in the news again because she said something transphobic again. Well, if you just go and be like, how dare you transphobic piece of blah, blah, blah. Obviously, JK Rowling's almost certainly not going to read your comment. So this is more a comment to her audience and people that might read your comment. And but it kind of works the same way. If they don't perceive her as having done anything wrong, or if they don't see transphobia as wrong, then it's just going to backfire. They're going to be like stupid left, political correctness, blah blah blah. We're all thinking it. What's wrong with somebody saying it? Whether that's true or not, a lot of people assume that what they think is what everybody thinks. What they feel is what everybody feels. So the point is, I think it's a lot more efficacious if you try to educate people on why it's wrong, and so that they understand and then see how they did it. A lot of people don't think they're being racist when they, in fact, might be. And racism, sexism, trans issues, they can get a little complicated. You can't just assume everybody to have the same knowledge you have. So you might be right, but that doesn't actually help your case very much. If people don't see why you're right. A couple qualifiers. I think for several decades after the civil rights movement, like, shame seemed to work because it was so universal. There was only 4 channels. They pretty much all agreed racism bad, and that was kind of like the culture Like, people didn't really disagree with that publicly in most areas, certainly, more liberal and urban areas. And the places that did disagree strongly, weren't so well connected. They weren't online. So a lot of people assumed racism was done. And if anybody said anything racist and they accused them of that, then they should just, hang their head in shame and apologize. Obviously, racism didn't actually go anywhere. It was just a prevalent culture of the idea that it was wrong. And if enough people are like yelling shame at somebody, the person's not going to argue. It might not actually be changing their mind. It won't be changing their mind, but they'll act like it is. If you didn't steal the cookies, but everybody thought you did, and they all gang up on you, eventually you're just gonna hang your head and walk out of the room or something. You're not gonna sit there arguing with people forever. And more so in a political situation where you go, okay, sorry, whatever. I'll be more PC in the future, right? If everyone's ganging up on you. But did you actually understand why it's wrong and change your mind? Probably not. So, in general, I don't think shame is effective anymore because opinions diversified so much. Everybody's in their own echo chamber. There's probably never again going to be, for most things, a majority of people that's going to back you up and point and yell shame. There's going to be enough people from the other person's side in their echo chamber supporting them that they'll feel justified. And this is what happens. Somebody says something horribly racist, and 80% of the comments are, yelling at them initially. But then the backswell support comes, and the person feels justified because there's people on their side. There's different echo chambers. They reinforce each other. So I don't think shame ever really was all that effective in the past. It just seemed to be because there's not that much, there's 4 channels and there wasn't as much communication. It wasn't, the only communications was by telephone and writing letters, right? But the world's changed. Now we have social media, and now we have reinforcing echo chambers that are incredibly divergent. So a message of shame can work, but I think it becomes a lot more powerful when you try to put at least a few sentences in there explaining why what they said was the thing, like transphobic, and why being transphobic is bad. So, Vosh addressed the JK Rowling thing, and, if you do it in a little more depth, it's not that difficult. It's like, what you said was bad because of this. You're assuming sex and gender are the same thing. They're not. And that's bad because trans people who don't feel accepted have a far higher chance of suicide. So you're literally killing kids here. That's not okay. And just by doing that, you come across as far more rational, and you're less likely to contribute to the backfire effect when people see it. When people read that, they're not going to be as much just, oh, what an idiot libtard, PC police, blah, blah, blah. Because you've actually made a point. And if somebody disagrees with that point, they can come on it and they can try to disagree with it. But that prompts a discussion instead of just people shutting you off. So I would encourage you to think about that. I think we all do it. I do it. It's a reflex oh my God, that was so fucking stupid. How could you say something like that? That was stupid. That was hateful. That was ignorant. You motherfucking piece of shit. Right? I mean, we all feel like that sometimes. But I think it's politically efficacious and personally beneficial and less likely to destroy relationships to take it down a notch, take a breath, and then explain, this is what I see is wrong with what you said. I think your heart's in the right place, but I think you might not understand how this affects other people. And then you explain it. So something to think about. If you disagree, I'd love to hear your comments or maybe talk to you about it. I love talking to people about anything, so feel free to DM me or put a comment under the video. And glad to talk about problems you would like help solving in your personal life, or anything else that I've talked about on this channel. So anyway, thanks so much for tuning in.